Hello, this is Mark Abel, and today we're going to be doing a before, during, and after chart. So students, I want you to, on the beginning of your paper, create three vertical lines. So your paper is going to be separated into thirds, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. The first 1/3 is going to be a B for before. The middle is going to be a D for during, and then A is going to be the third category for after. So in the before column, we're going to describe what it is that you knew about the era before World War I in the United States, the area before World War I in Russia. In the D column, you're going to put what you learned during my presentation. And then in the third column on the far right, you are going to put what you learned after experiencing the presentation. Okay, so here we are. So this is before World War I. Again, remember World War I was between 1914 and 1918. And the constant here, the United States experiences social disruption and Russia experiences social disruption. Now, when we think of a disruptive student, we think, oh, they're making a lot of noise. Maybe they're throwing desks. Maybe they're getting in fights. But in this case, social disruption means that maybe something in the economy is not going well. Maybe there is mob violence in the streets. Maybe people are angry with their employer in the case of union strikes. Maybe people are angry with their government in the case of governmental riots or challenging the government's authority. And there began to be labor unrest in the United States. And these actions were called the general strike. And it really is a consequence of workers feeling as if they were underpaid. They did not have a democratic voice in the work that they did. Well, now, what does it mean to have a democratic voice? Well, overall, to have a democratic participation in the workplace means workers have some semblance of capacity to participate in the process of what work happens, under what conditions, what is produced, what is the timeline. Workers help to improve the design of products. Workers pitch in on what a realistic timeline would constitute for completing the project. What a reasonable wage might look like, what holidays or vacation or benefits do they feel entitled to for completing the work. And remember, at this point in time, unionization was quite small, meaning a small minority of workers were in unions. And a small percentage of workers had job security, meaning that if they were, remember, the Social Security happened around the 1930s. So in 1914 and before, if you did not save money throughout your working career and you get to be 62 or 65 or an elderly person, you were in very bad distress financially. Your family would probably have to feed you. Your family would probably have to house you because, again, at some point you cease being able to participate in the workplace and complete work, but your need for food and housing and transportation and healthcare, these needs continue even past your ability to work. So that's the American side of things. Across the pond, as we like to say, when you cross the Atlantic Ocean, you can get over to Russia, there's a political revolution. It overthrows Prime Minister Alexander Kerensky. And the opposing group in Russia that came to power, we say assumed power, they did what is called a coup d'etat. A coup d'etat is when a group overthrows the existing government, seizes the reins of power, creates their own government, and begins to rule. So now I want to provide you with some instructions. We're going to be looking at textbook pages 580 to 583. And on the left side of your chart, this is the far left. This is the B column. The first column on your page on the far left, you're going to write down communism, general strike, Bolshevik, and Red Scare. Okay, when I explain these slides, these slides are gonna have more explanations of what communism is, what the general strike was, what Bolshevik was, and what the Red Scare was. You want to take notes, and these are going to go into the middle part of your chart under the during section. That's the second part of the chart. All right, so if you look in the dictionary, communism, it's a political theory. It comes from a philosopher, a writer, a thinker, intellectual named Karl Marx. He advocates for class war. Now, what is advocacy? Advocacy is when an individual or a group of people push for a particular policy or course of action within a society. Karl Marx, he wants class war. He wants the poor, proletariat. Proletariat is known as the working class. Proletarian means a person that works for their wages. He wants the proletariat to overthrow the wealthy class. They are known as the bourgeoisie. That's where we get the epithet bougie. That's bougie. Starbucks is bougie. Or Whole Foods is bougie. You'll hear that a lot. But that whole pejorative is an insult. An epithet is an insult that is hurled at somebody. So bougie comes from bourgeoisie, which was the Russian term for the wealthy class. So in Karl Marx's world, there's two classes. You have the proletariat and the bourgeoisie. Now our next we have a synonym from the discipline of economics. If you take a college economics class, you're going to see the term command economy. And again, you may see that junior or senior year if you take economics as well in high school. Okay, so this is an economy where production, investment. Now, what is investment? Well, investment is money you put into a business or an enterprise with the hope of making more profit. And production is when you make goods or produce services. We know what prices are, and then we know that income is the amount of wages or salary that an individual receives from doing any given job. Now, the takeaway on command economy is government is controlling all aspects of economic life. So this is what happens in the Soviet Union. Economic life, how money is spread around, what goods are manufactured in terms of clothing and medicine and technology. Government decides all of this. See, here in America today, to a large extent, we are a market economy where consumer demand, basically what consumers want, determines what is produced. If a lot of people buy video games, corporations develop new versions of the Xbox. We're getting Project Scarlet and PlayStation 5. That's a product of consumer demand. If people spend a lot of money on video games, companies realize it's worthwhile to produce video games. Now, in the case of Russia, they didn't have a lot of consumer luxuries, and so Things like toilet paper or a lot of shampoos had to be imported from neighboring countries like Poland by entrepreneurs, and people would trade Russian cameras to get access to things like shampoo and toilet paper. For whatever reason, the Russian government didn't see shampoo or toilet paper as very important products to give people. And so enterprising Russians would trade very high-level cameras. For whatever reason, Russia was a highly technological society and they had great cameras. So they were able to get a lot of toiletries and different amenities for shampoo and toilet paper for exchange of the Russian cameras. All right, so now we have we call it an epithet because it's considered an insult, a pejorative. Pejorative is a negative thing. So among right-wing circles, a lot of Trump supporters, they would say a commie, which is what Russia lived under, communism, or it was the United Soviet Socialist Republic, USSR. Anyway, right-wing Americans look at communism as something negative. Some socialists, revolutionists, anarchists, and leftists would say communism is a very interesting idea, or even an idea that should be implemented in our society. All right, so now back to the other side of the pond. We're back in the United States. Business owners in the United States, they think that the labor unrest of the early 1900s was inspired by what was happening on the other side of the pond in Russia. By what was happening, they thought, the elites of the United States thought that the economic and political thoughts of Russia were beginning to influence the unions of the United States that were participating in the general strike. So the American workers are frustrated by low wages. They want a wage is for the working class, the proletariat, whereas the middle class, I call them the salariat, because they receive a salary, which means as long as they do their job, they know that they have a guaranteed amount of money they're going to earn each year. Whereas the working class can only rely on being paid for the hours that they work. And then the bourgeoisie, they are the investment class, meaning that people like Warren Buffett or Trump or other billionaires, the Forbes, the Waltons, what have you, they earn the majority of their income from investments. They don't need to go to work. I mean, a lot of them work as executives and CEOs because they enjoy participating in that type of work. But all in all, the majority of their income comes from their investments. So that's what differentiates the working class and the bourgeoisie, the wealthy. All right, so we have the Red Scare. Communists are considered Reds. They are thought to be loyal. They have an allegiance to the Red Soviet flag. Senator Joseph McCarthy, he instigates allegations. What are allegations? You are accused of something in the court of law. And he is investigating subversive, that is, people that go against a government's authorities. He's investigating filmmakers, he's investigating activists, he's investigating writers, he's investigating journalists. And we end up with this climate of fear and repression, but it does lift in the late 50s. Now, the Bolsheviks, remember we talked about coup d'etat. Coup d'etat means one group seizes power from another group, and then they establish their rule. So Bolsheviks are the primary. What is primary? That is the main or most meaningful or most relevant faction. A faction is a group or collection of individuals. They come to run the Russian government, and the word Bolshevik means majority. So you're going to add some reflections from what you've learned today in the after section of your chart. Then we're going to make a concept definition map. So you have a concept definition map in your folder that I've already provided for you. You're going to make up a concept definition map with communism, Red Scare, general strike, and Bolshevik. And then before you